Battle Cat's initial non-gacha rares are rather underwhelming and useless bunch, especially by the point that you get their true form. Even in 4-star stages they suck because you could just use purchasable specials over them, but in the past, this was also the case for the purchasable special kits as well. This is why they got talents, but as of now, the non-gacha rares you get from stages like Kung Fu Cat X and Doll Cats don't have any talents. So I had an idea, what if they did have talents? And that's why this video is being made, to see what some of these cats would be like if they did have talents. Now I'm not going to talk about every single one of these, as some are way more interesting to talk about than others. I mean, I doubt anyone's really thinking about if Xmas Pudding Cat or if Madam Bride had talents, so I'll be sticking with these ones for this video. Celer Man Cat, Sports Day Cat, Adult Cat, Evil Cat, Dolls Cat, and Kung Fu Cat X. By the way, before it starts, join my Discord server if you want to talk to me or other fans of my content about Battle Cats. Just like the purchasable special cats, I think that the basic talent attack and defense up shouldn't just be a 2% buff. It should instead be an 8% buff every single time you purchase it, totaling up to an 80% buff on damage and defense once you max them out. This is due to the straight up unusable stats in comparison to basically any other cat you'd have by the time you actually get these guys through forms. Talent will also go by special and super rare cost, since I want to make these cats have good talents, and if they all just cost at 5, it would be way too OP. Now that that's clear, it's time that we actually get into the interesting parts of the video. The reason why I'm setting each cat's level to 40 is probably because that's when you get their talent, and in the mid game, you probably can't upgrade cats past level 40. At least I can't yet, since I haven't beaten an ancient curse or whatever. So let's start this video off with one of our most interesting picks. I believe that Celer Man Cat is already an interesting unit, as he's like an incredibly weak, inefficient version of Barlock or Can-Can. His HP and damage, even with strengthened, is completely unviable by the time that you get him, obviously making him terrible. But if he had an 80% increase of both HP and damage at level 40, then his HP would be 47,520 and his damage would be 12,672, making his natural DPS 3.42k. But with his amazing 100% strength at 50% HP, his damage shoots up to an amazing 25,344 and his DPS becomes 6.84k. Certainly not too bad, especially for his cost, attack speed, and his area attacking ability. And thanks to his strong guns ability, optimally, he gains 2.5 times defense and 1.8 times damage, giving him an absolute effective with strengthened 45,619 damage with 12k DPS and 118,000 max HP. These buffs make him a seriously worthwhile to use cat alone, since he's a very much stat based cat, but we have to give him at least 2 or 3 other talents as well. One will be move speed up. This will be able to be upgraded 5 times total into a 50% movement speed buff, making his speed up to 12, which is 1 less than Manic Island. Knockback immunity would be nice too, so that he could totally counter enemies that can knockback, and I'm thinking that he should gain a talent to target angels, since I think that he would be powerful against them with his knockback immunity, due to some angels being able to knock you back. KB immunity would cost 50, and an angel target would cost 75. Initially, I was thinking that you should simply gain a 75 NP cost talent against Aku and a single time 100 NP buff to strengthen, so it's by 175% instead of what I have now. But a strengthen for this guy by 175% would be disgusting. How disgusting? Well, accounting for the 80% attack up, his damage would be raised to 69,696 and his DPS would be 18,000. And against his targeted type, the skyrockets to 125,452 damage and 33,000 DPS. Safe to say that this would be game breaking, and it would be way too OP for a cat that costs 1,366 C with a natural cooldown of 14ish seconds. And versus Aku talent, I think wouldn't be as good as versus angels, since most Aku shred units because of their crazy damage, meaning that even though Celer Man would possibly get in some high damage through a few hits, he'd most likely be destroyed before he could actually do anything aside from hitting peons and breaking some shields. So because of this, I'm thinking that his angel targeting talent would actually be better. It's really close though. I can see either angel or Aku working for them either way. But hey, at the end of the day, it's just all fun speculation that tries to keep the game as balancing in mind. If you disagree with this stuff, then tell me in the comments. But anyway, now we're onto a completely different cat, Sports Day Cat. Okay, look, Sports Day is a definition of worthless. There is nothing about this cat that makes him worthwhile to bring into a loadout unless you desperately need a ranged meat shield for some reason. But even then, he costs 375C. So let's see how much better we can get him. He won't have an attack up talent like how Maximum the Fighter doesn't have one, because that doesn't matter for him. So with max defense, i.e. an increase of 80% at level 40, we'll have 27,720 HP. This is a bit higher than max level Eraser, but his cost is still horrible. So he'll have a single 50 NP cost down talent that makes him cost a flat 200C. Now he needs 2 more talents, so I'll give him a max 50% survive chance that can be upgraded 10 times. And finally, a surge immunity for 75 NP. Might seem like a little bit of a weird decision, I know, but the thing about that is that he'll pretty much be the only surge immune range meat shield with HP compatible to max level Eraser. It's pretty much the same cooldown as Eraser though, so even though he costs 200, it can still drain your wallet easily. So honestly, I feel like that this set of talents works well for him and is balanced. If you have an alternative talent set idea for Sports Day, leave it in the comments. I'm very interested in seeing what others think that this cat's talent should be, and I will talk to you about it if I disagree or something like that. Adult cat, or more specifically prisoner cat, is an already pretty useful cat in some circumstances in 4-star difficulty stages when it comes to ranging out enemies. He's sort of like a lesser version of Golfer in that way, except he targets red enemies with a strong against ability, but generally there's still no reason to use him because his DPS and HP remains mid and he has single targets. So let's see what talents could do for this somewhat useful albeit lackluster sniper. At level 40 with attack and defense up talents, he gains 21,780 HP and 13,860 damage or 2.94k DPS. Not the greatest, but for snipers, low DPS is pretty common because the range makes up for it, and backliners usually don't have that much HP. One talent that he would absolutely need is a recharge speed down talent that reduces it from its horrible 36 to 27 second recharge speed to 15 to 9 seconds, onto other stuff that can help him majorly, and up to 100% initial cost 50 NP survive chance that can be upgraded 10 times could help a lot, since he only has 2 knockbacks, which is incredibly strange for a sniping elite unit that can't defend himself once enemies getting close. Also, I think that this kind of cat is perfect for the currently unused improved knockback talent, which in my mind can be upgraded 3 times for a total of 75 NP, and each upgrade gives him 1 knockback, meaning that he could have both a 100% survive chance and 5 knockbacks in total, totaling 6. With these talents, he can realistically be a stackable backliner with good damage and survivability, which will redeem him majorly from being a worse version than Golfer. Golfer still does has an edge over him, thanks to Golfer's area attack ability, higher DPS, slightly better attack range, and less knockbacks, which is useful in certain circumstances, and also better targeting. But because of these talents, Adult basically becomes a 4-star version of Golfer with good survivability. Now we're on to our first cat that is just plain terrible. He's based off of Zombie, and just like him at level 40, 80% stat talents, he still sucks. His HP rises slowly to 27,680, and his damage becomes 7,920 with 40k DPS. Horrendous stats, and with a range of 150, he's going to be getting hit because he's on the front line. You may say, hey, how about his freeze chance? But I say that he'll most likely be killed before he has a serious chance to freeze any reds. The only other talent that I could think of giving him so that he could be viable would be a freeze up to 60% on reds that would also increase the freeze duration to 4 seconds, and a 75% chance level 3 wave talent that can be upgraded once flat for a 50 NP, so that he's actually good at freezing enemies and that he can freeze reds before they even get to the front line. Plus the DPS will be raised a bit from this. Aside from that, I'm thinking of giving him a dodge chance versus red up to 20% for 0.5 seconds that's upgradable 5 times, initially costing 25 NP, and possibly a talent where he could also target aliens for 25 NP, since he already has Barrier Breaker. Aku could also be a targeted type, but I feel like he get one shot most of the time due to his horrendous range and HP, or he get cucked by their shields despite the fact that he'd have a solid freeze chance and a piercing one at that thanks to his waves. I could see how you may think that these talents could make him a little broken, especially if he's stacked as an attacker, but honestly, this is the only real way that I could see this cat working at all within the freezing niche. And even then, he'd probably still only be useful in 4-star levels due to there being other cats that are simply better at freezing, like iCats for reds or Seafarer for aliens. While I also find this cat interesting like Sports Day or the Adult Cat because of what he is, it's a simple fact to say that this cat is entirely worthless. More so than Evil Cat, even when we take talents into account. His HP at level 42 with max defense is 11,880, which is just as bad as Evil Cat's HP at level 30, and it only goes downhill from here as Dull Cat's attack becomes 6,613 with 2.22k DPS. Holy shit, that is horrendous. And you might be saying that, hey, he could be fine supported with piercing, guaranteed level 1 waiver DPS, but no, his range is 190, and at that range you're practically a melee unit. So he's pretty much an even worse version of Birdcat because he has low damage and horrible HP. Making this cat any better with talents will be difficult, but this is what I'm thinking. We give him a hyper-specific niche: zombies. For this, his first talent will be both targeting zombies and zombie killer in the same talent for 75 NP. His next talent will be both resistance and massive damage for 50 NP, due to the fact that you already have to pay 100% of the attack and defense up for him to be worth anything with resistance and massive damage. And his last talent will be KB reduction, upgradable 3 times for 15 NP per level to reduce his KB count to 1. I just like the idea of adding new talents to the game, since this is all speculation, so you could technically just add anything that you want to make a unit better, but I think that this cat is so bad that he needs this, as with 4 knockbacks, it wouldn't even give him a chance to do any damage. And just like that, we now have a new anti-zombie unit with an effective 47,520 HP and 26,452 damage, making his DPS 9.9 thousand. The HP still isn't the greatest, but hey, that DPS is pretty damn good. And so here's the final interesting pick to me: Kung Fu Cat X or Iron Claw X. I find him to be the second most interesting under Celer Man because of what Dancer became with talents. An amazing semi-spammable suicide mid-ranger nuker that can even be used in 4-star stages. A genuinely insane and amazing switch up from being a pretty mid-task purchasable special with a true form that's not useful on its own by the time that you get it. So it can be assumed that Kung Fu Cat X would be the same way if he got talents, and honestly, thinking of what he'd have was hard for me since there's a lot of potential here. First of all, his HP and damage at level 40 with max attack and defense up would be 35,640 HP and 73,180 damage, with 12.19k DPS. Like most cats with multi-hit, the last hit is the strongest, though as for his weakness, because of multi-hit, enemies could be knocked back by the first or second hit and miss the third, which does insane damage. His single target weakness could also ruin his ability to hit enemies, and his immunity to warp makes one of his only ways of repositioning non-existent. We already now have a very strong mid-ranger with 1 knockback and single target, just like Dancer, but we still need to give him 2 or 3 talents. Now my first idea for a talent would be a Savage Strike that can only be activated at a 25% chance at max on the 3rd hit, and the initial cost will be 75 NP, and it will be upgradable 10 times. And before you say, oh my god, that's so OP, that means his effective damage on hit 3 is 153,726. That's more damage than Awakened Bahamut's Cat's first hit at level 30. You must hear me out because I do have a pretty good reason for this. First of all, the strike could only be activated at a 25% chance on the last hit at max level. So, you not only have to invest a large amount of NP into this for this to even be a chance, but the possibility of the enemy being knocked back before the last hit is relatively high depending on what you're fighting. Second of all, he's a single target, which means that it is totally possible for him to hit a peon with 153,726 damage instead of whatever you're trying to hit. It took me a bit to think of how the talent could work, but I think that this is perfect for him in all honesty. To stick with the single target idea that this cat was going for initially, his next talent could be a flat 75% strengthened for 50 NP when he's at 25% HP. Basically, this means that his possible damage output while he's at 25% HP is 128,065 damage with 21.3k DPS. And if he gets lucky with a Savage Strike on the last hit, he could do 269,020 damage, which is an unsurprising insane amount of power. I still think that this is balanced because in my use of Kung Fu Cat X, he misses his target very frequently due to his single target. Though I still think that this is okay because he's meant to be a powerful single target attacker. And honestly, I think that this is all he needs to become a truly amazing cat. Of course, you still have to invest a lot into him for him to be at this level of power, but I believe that if Kung Fu Cat X had talents, then it should at least be something like this, as this would make him amazing. I hope that you enjoyed this little speculative video, and no, I did not count the advent rares like Slime Cat because those guys are already fine. I mean, Slime Cat with talents is just unnecessary. Like, what would he even have? Wave immune, surge immune, like defense up. But yeah, watch the rest of my Battle Cats videos, and the next video may or may not be Battle Cats related. I don't know yet. I'll see you in my next upload though.